Hello Soul Design community. Today I want to talk about something that makes that difference between a unique and beautiful looking sole and the cheap and dull looking sole, which is not only about design, not only the material choice, but a layer, something like this. So let's take a look at these soles. What do you see that is common in them that makes them beautiful and not dull looking? So let's start with this sole. As you can see, we have a nice design, but it's not the only thing that we can notice on this sole. Look at these textures and surface work that is put on top of the design. So when we look at the hexagons, they have a very neat and defined line where these textures are finished, and inside them there is kind of a shiny effect. So that is really precious. It's really beautiful to see, but this is not done by texturing on the mold, but it is done by design. So the designer inserted these hexagons and also these lines that are quite wide and also deep. But then if you look at here inside, you will see that it is shiny. That is something done by polishing the mold. That is something that we can do only in the recessed negative areas, because on the positive areas, it would be negative on the mold, and it is very difficult to polish things when they are carved, right? So as you can see here, I go really close up. You can see that there is a very light texture here, and then we have just sandblasted and very matte looking but smooth areas, and these are making the difference in this sole. Now this one. So as you can see, in these carved areas we really have this shiny effect. It is because of the material, because this material is kind of an EVA material. This is not rubber. So when the EVA is molded, it gives this kind of semi-shiny effect, because it's a membrane that is created by heat. But then, just to make the difference and not make the sole all shiny and cheap and plastic looking, there is an application of some textures that you can see here inside, and you can see on top of the legs, and then inside these carved areas. It is very smooth and sandblasted, and this is giving our sole a kind of a depth and richness, right? It's not poor looking, it's not really cheap looking, it's really beautifully done. And when we look at the lateral, we see also a differentiation of surface between the very smooth surfaces, where we can see the 3D effect really clearly. And then we have these areas which have this diamond kind of texture, but also this is done on mold, not really with the mechanical molding, not really the texturing. Now I will explain also what this means. Let's take a look another sole, which is this Allbirds shoe that has this expanded material like an EVA sole, and then we have two rubber pods. You can see this is the mold split, and we can see that this part is completely smooth, or it is really like kind of sandblasted, and then we see that this part has an important and, let's say, quite a rugged surface, which makes the real difference also between the surface and the parts that are really like carved. They come out and they are more evident when we give these texture differences, whereas on rubber there is nothing really going on. It's just inside the carved areas it's a bit smoother, and then we have a micro rugged texture on top of it. So this is done all by texturing, which is done after the mold is finished. Let's take another one. Here also you can see this time it's not on top of the lugs, because this is a safety sole, and the safety soles we don't do any texturing on top of the lugs, which would touch the ground. They should grip really well. We shouldn't break the grip. So We do a lot of lugs that are separated, but we do not put any texture on top of it. So the texture goes in the base rubber. So now let's look at the texture book. So what is a texture book? A texture book is hundreds of textures that are made in a book that we can choose from. We can have really big textures like these, very popping out or very deep. Big ones like these ones. Or we can have these ones really very elegant and small. Fine textures. We have hundreds of them, so you can ask, where can I find this book? This book comes from the mold makers. When you have a mold maker, they are going to give this to you if you ask for it. And then there are the codes all over it that you can make the texture map of your design and insert these codes. In our masterclass, we have a whole chapter about texturing, which is really, really important. That really, really makes the difference. So what do you think? Can you be dealing with this, or do you want to make soles that are completely flat?